Hi guys, how are you doing? We are back with the analysis of the Forex on based on the 25th March. That is the Tuesday, and as you all know, that all the discussions would be based on the NY time, that is the Eastern Standard Time, based on that. So let's jump into the analysis about the fundamentals and everything. So this is the website which I use for the understanding the data and everything. We can look into that as well. So we can see that in the currencies as the euro opened, it's down, the pound is down, and USD JPY, we can see that the yens are down, so that the the USD is stronger right here. And then we can see with USD CHF right here that Swiss is stronger, and similarly Australian dollar is stronger right now. So it makes something really important that euro is down but Australian dollar is stronger. And we can see similarly like gold, it's going down, and that is a good indication that dollar is getting stronger. The interest in the dollar is coming back, and similarly silver, and the oil is also rising a little bit, and similarly natural gas and Ethereum and BTC as well. And if we see the SPX index, we can see right here that it has started moving on the upper side, and FTSE is moving on the upper side. FTSE is going downside, and DAX is going on the downside. And if we see that what are the actual data that are coming out that might be impacting our trades, we can see that the CPI yearly for the yens are coming out really soon, around 1 a.m. On the Eastern Standard Time. And then we have like a euro business climate at 5 a.m. We have CPI realized sales for the pound right here at 840. We do have like a FOMC member speaks, and then we do have composite 20 and HPI. I think this is about more about the housing stuff. And at 9:05 we do have FOMC member speaks, and at 10 a.m. we are having the consumer confidence data for the United States, and then home sales, and then Richmond Manufacturing Index. So we would be discussing all this stuff, and then presidential speaks for the German as well. And then later at night we do have like CPI yearly for Australian dollar. So right now it's the CPI for yens, and then again for the Australian dollar right here. So let's get deeper into the understanding right now that how things are actually looking. Just give me a sec. So right here we can see that we can go into the details of each and every data that we have, like a CPI. CPI is the change in the price of goods and services purchased by the consumers. So it's like the changes in the price of goods and services. And we can see that the food and energy price account for about the quarter of the CPI, but they tend to be very volatile and distorted an underlying trend. BOJ usually pays more attention to the core data. In the core data, we don't have the food and energy sector in there, so that's different. And secondly, like the consumer price accounts for the majority of overall inflation. Inflation is important to the currency valuation, and similarly, like basically CPI is an inflation, so it's the kind of data that we would be expecting for the BOJs around here. And we do have German climate. Uh, that is the business climate. It's not like simple climate. So it is the composite index based on survey manufacturer, builders, and wholesalers and retailers. So it is a leading indicator for economic health. Business react quickly to the market conditions and future economic activities. So it is an overall survey based on the manufacturing index, something like more on the side of like PMIs. We can see that. So it's a survey about 9,000 businesses which asked respondents to rate the relative level of the business conditions, and it's on the Germany side. Then we have like a CBI realized sales, the level of diffusion index based on surveyed retailers and wholesalers. So it is for the survey that is based on the retailers and wholesalers, and it is a leading indicator for consumer spending because retailer and wholesaler are directly influenced by the consumer buying, and they usually ask about like 125 retailer and wholesalers company. We can see that the previous is actually uh, minus 23, and the forecasted is about minus 28 right now. And then we have S&P Composite H and HPI yearly, the changes in the selling price of a single family homes in 20 metropolitan areas, and it is a leading indicator for the housing industry health because of the rising house prices. It tracks the investors and spurs industry activities. So it deals with the houses that are there. So similarly, HPI also deal with the changes in the purchase prices of the homes with mortgage backed by Fannie Mae and Frederick Mac. So it is actually a leading indicator for the housing industry that can actually tell us about the housing industry. Then we have a consumer confidence. This is really important data that will be coming out. That is the consumer confidence. We have to like keep an eye on it. This is level of the composite index based on the surveyed household. So this is the data that is based on really grassroots level, that is based on the survey of the on the households, and we can see that the financial confidence is the leading indicator of the consumer spending, which account for the majority of overall economic activity. And it is the survey for 3,000 households which asked the respondents to rate the relative level of the current and economic future conditions, including the labor availability and business conditions and overall economic situation right here. So makes sense, really important. New home sales, it's an annualized number of the new single family homes that were sold during the previous months. And Richmond manufacturing is basically in the index based in the Virginia. So the level of the composite index based on the manufacturing in Richmond, and it over above indicates has zero, indicates improving condition, and below worsening conditions. And survey about 75 manufacturing in the Richmond area to rate the level of business condition, shipment, new order, and um, employment. And then we have Japanese data, that is SPII, that is the change in the prices of services purchased by the corporations. So it is a leading indicator for consumer inflation. When the corporation pay more for the service, higher costs are usually passed on the consumers. So it's for the services that are being purchased by the uh, purchased by the corporations. And then CPI, the change in the price of goods and services purchased by the consumers. And it is really important if we see that roundabout they have like a similar amount of data each time. We can see the last month is around about 2.5, and similarly it's moving around all that. So now jumping next towards the next part, that we can see that are there some kind of hot stories out there that US President Trump money is pouring in and we want to keep it that way. That's great. That sounds to be bullish sentiment out there. We can see that Trump more countries will fill up Abraham Accords. So hope Feds lowered the interest rates. So see, this is right here. This is the kind of like the sentiment that is being created. So if the Fed lowers the interest rate, the current impact might be on the bearish side on DXY. But let's see, going to have to get a brand new air system, and then Trump is saying that all companies are coming back to US, and we have seen that there are certainly companies that are being developed in here. And the probability of US recession is approaching 50 the Dutch market service find out. And we can also see that South Korea consumer lost confidence as the political uncertainty intensified, and recession crisis overdone, but more bad news on the horizon of US economy. So overall, the sentiment seems on a positive side. So that's so now we can look at another website for better understanding of if there's some data that we actually missed. So your new car registration, treasuries, and housing data that is coming out. Fed speaks, and home sales, Richmond, and the crude oil stock changes, and then CPI for the Australian dollar at 7:30 tomorrow. If we see some kind of if there are certainly some news is out here for the currencies, we can look into that as well. This is a correlation chart. Japanese yen hold losses against a strong dollar. Japanese yen remained weak around one. So today the Japanese yen had a wonderful fall around. In after the New York session, we can see yens were literally went really on the downside. The Japanese yen remained weak around 150.7 per dollar on Tuesday, hovering near the 3 week low as the dollar strengthened on the strong, solid US economic data expectations that President Trump may take more selective approach to the tariff. Meanwhile, Trump pledged on the Monday to impose levies on automobile, pharmaceutical, and other industrial raised concern about political risks to the Japanese exports domestically. Minutes from the Bank of Japan January meeting showed that the policymaker remained open to the additional interest rate hike. So this is an important statement that the Bank of Japan meeting showed that a policymaker remained open to the additional interest rates. So they might be putting additional interest rates, and depending on the wage growth and inflation. So they are kind of giving us a scenario here that there might be a chance of increasing the rates. And I do remember it that yesterday they had a monetary policy meeting. So that's why we are looking at this statement. One member says the policy rate could reach around 1% in the second half, and BOJ is held its policy rate steady at 0.5 right now. So they are saying that it can be increased to 1. So Australian dollar, we can check it out that Australian dollar remained steady on Tuesday. It remained quite steady, by the way. So more than my expectation, because euro was shattered today. So Australian dollar was remained kept its momentum right here and remaining the sideways, so that this week as an investor awaited government journal budget announcement, which is expected to reveal a deficit of 2 years of surplus. So there is a budget that is being announced in Australia. So what is expected to reveal a deficit after 2 years surplus. Meanwhile, the Reserve Bank of Australia is set to decide on a monetary policy next week. So they do have like a monetary policy report that is coming out next week, with the market widely anticipated no changes. Traders currently see a two-third of a chance of another rate cut in May. Hmm. So the expectation is that they might cut the rates even. So it all depends upon the inflation. If the inflation increases, that then they might even decide to do that. However, the central bank has cautioned that further easing is not guaranteed globally. The market sentiments was influenced by uncertainty over the US trade policy. So there was like an uncertainty in the Australian dollar was because of the policy, while optimism grew that President Donald Trump may take more selective approach over to the tariffs ahead of the April 2nd deadline. So yeah, and there is an April 2nd deadline for the tariffs, by the way, that is also coming. So Chinese stock remains, the Shanghai composite slipped 0.1%, 3367, while Shanghai's component fell 0.6% on Tuesday, reversing gains from a previous session as a concern mounted over the effectiveness of China's stimulus measures in offsetting US tariffs. So there is like a little bit of weakness in Chinese yuan right here, based on the US tariff, and China is set a 5% GDP growth target and raise its deficit to the three decades high while announcing the plans to boost the consumption and domestic demands. However, the economy continued to struggle with the sluggish growth, and US tariff expect to weigh on the key sector, including the industry, power, transport, property, and consumer goods. Heavy stocks post the sharp losses, including uh, their Wulong Electric, Victory Giant, and Cambricon Technologies and Insigma Technologies. And we can see that about the dollar data, that we can see that dollar index steadies around 104 on Tuesday. It's the highest level in 3 weeks. So we're going to discuss this, that it is hovering around like 1.104.3, and it is the highest level, uh, 3 weeks. Aim strong economic data while the traders waited the potential impact of upcoming tariffs. Upcoming tariffs is around like on we have discussed it, that is on like April 2nd. The data on the Monday showed the US business activity picked up in the March with a sharp rebound in the service sector, offsetting a renewed decline in the manufacturing output. So although the data for the US was like great, but there was a sharp uh, decline in the manufacturing output, and that that actually like created enough of a problem. I can show you what they are talking about. You see right here. So this is the manufacturing sector which they are talking about, that there is a sharp decline, usually like more than 50% is good. So this is what they are talking about right here. So there's a sharp decline in here. However, the business expectations for the year had dropped to a second lowest level, yeah, since October 22, weighted down by the concern over the demand, tariffs, broader policy shift under the new administration. Recent remarks from the President Donald Trump fueled hopes for a more targeted approach to the tariffs, easing fear of a widespread economic disruption. So they are kind of like easing the stuff, and if they're easing the stuff, that could be really good, even to, to look at the dollar on the longer side for a while. However, it's pledged to impose levies on the automobile, pharmaceutical, and other industries. And then we can see, so Nikki is like their index of Japanese yens, and it surged 1.3% above 38,000, with the broader uh, top picks index climbed zero point 0.7 on Tuesday, with the later approaching of the 8 months high. The rally followed by the Wall Street overnight gains, fueled by the optimism that Donald Trump may take more selective approach to the tariff. Japanese stocks also benefit from the weakened yen, and which boosted the outlook for the export-driven industry and make a local asset more attractive to the foreign investors. Meanwhile, the minutes from the Bank of Japan meeting. So this they had like a policy meeting, by the way, today. I mean to say on Monday. See, this is the monetary policy which they are talking about right now. So this is how you kind of like link the data with the news. Meanwhile, the minutes for the Bank of Japan indicate the policymakers might remain open for the further interest rate hikes, which we discussed, and export of the heavy auto stocks strong gains, with Toyota Motors rising 3%, Honda 1.3, and Suzuki gaining 2.9. And yeah, so US stocks future held steady on Tuesday, following a strong rally in the major indices, and Dow climbed 1.42, and S&P 500 jumped 1.76, Nasdaq surged around 2.27, and we can see that Tesla soaring around 11.9%, Nvidia and Meta gains 3.8%. So things are like getting on the different side rather than like bearish. Now they're going on a bullish side, and then we can see the New Zealand. So NZDX 50 rose 42 points, or 3% on Tuesday morning trade, marking its fourth recession gains. The advance, followed by Wall Street rally Monday, driven by the sign that U.S. trade sanction might may be a less severe feared, including the President uh, Trump's suggestion that some countries could receive an exemption in top trading partner China. So overall, it is saying that it is getting stronger. So we this is the kind of the data which we are looking at right now. 7 minutes ago, the China fiscal revenue fell 1.6% in first 2 months 2025 compared to 24. This latest figure reversed a 1.3% increase in whole 2024, means the expenditure rose 4%, easing 3.6% increase in 2024. China has set its fiscal deficit target around 5.66 trillion, and 4% of GDP, to counter the impact of the tariff rising. So it's an overall economic thing that their trade deficit is sorry, the fiscal deficit is around like 5.66 trillion, and they are with the 4% of GDP growth, and they want to reach it to 5%. So figure mark record high from the previous forecasted 3% for this year. China has pledged to adapt more proactive fiscal policy that year, including the larger budget deficit to domestic consumption. The country has also set a 5% GDP growth target for the year. So seems like things are happening in a really amazing way. Anyway, before we jump into the charts, guys, I want to like take one 2 3 seconds break, and then we can like focus on it. Okay, welcome back, guys. So let's discuss into DXY right here. This is what actually we were looking at when we read that the dollar is hovering around 104, and you can see it's like 104 around this point, and dollar has been like keeping it stable for a while. So as we were discussing that this was a channel right here, and this channel turned into the range right here, and this is a good potential signal at a certain moment that when a channel is turned into a range, we can actually expect certainty that the things might be leading on the bullish side, but it depends a lot on the fundamentals as well. So if fundamentals are not aligning with the situation, you might be seeing certain bumps around there and here. So this is the current scenario, is that what the data actually represented, that the things are happening to be under control, and government is bringing funding, and companies are coming back, which whatever we have like discussed in a few minutes back, we can actually see that how it is happening around here. So this is like this is a good breakout that happened around here with this move. So let's see how things run. Might like get a move on the upper side, although I'm quite hopeful that we might be looking pushing dollar might be pushed up to like 105 level around here, because why 105, it's just like a round number, so that's why I've placed it. Although like the potential is to go on the upper side like that. Even till this point we might see some kind of reaction around here, and then we would be like actually looking at how things would be looking on that time in that scenario. So what we can actually do is we can actually see that how, so it's around about like 7 days to prices to be reaching here, and if we see that April 1, around about 8 days more. So this is what we can actually see some kind of reaction here. We do have FTR level placed right in here as well, so we have to be aware. And secondly, what the most important thing is that, see, this is basically the zone right here, and this zone can actually give us a reaction around here. So let's see how things actually look, because you can't say anything, but what we can do is we can actually believe that things might get stronger in the dollar as well. So right here we have USD CAD. If we see USD CAD right here, we can see that the dollar isn't performing as great as it was initially in front of the Canadian dollar. They pushed the Canadian dollar down exactly like that, and after that we saw, this is where the Canadian dollar got stronger, and after that we saw that USD gaining the momentum around here, and as the USD was gaining the momentum, we can actually check out the fib, that how much the retracement has already been happened, and we can see that it is pushed around about like 61% retracement has been already done, and the price is pushed around that. Then we saw that the weakness in the dollar began from this point, and the price pushed on the downside here. Around about here we got like a presidential change in uh, the Canadian dollar. In the Canada, the Trudeau left office, and then another person might be like coming on the from the liberals side, and Then we saw this kind of momentum built in the Canadian dollar, and after that we saw that there was a break around this point. So this is the most important thing right here, that each time the price is pushed on the upper side, these are the peak formations that are formed. And you can even look it in the form of a trend right here, that prices are pushed on the downside. So certainly, this is the type of the pattern which we are looking at in the Canadian dollar right now. And this is, by the way, like really cool stuff, that we are looking at this type of pattern around here. Let's see how things actually reacts around here. So overall, like, dollar isn't as strong as, because the idea is that this is like nothing and this is nothing, because although we got a reaction around here we can see that the dollar was getting strong and then started getting weak against the CAD, and now it's like stuck here. Much of this order block is around here. So let's wait till the price comes around here, then we can actually see the reaction. If the prices actually started building up, and we can see a push on the upper side in the dollar as well. So it seems to be a quite legit level. If you look at USD CHF right here, we can see that the dollar was exactly going on the downside against the Swiss, as Swiss being like more on the safe haven side. We can see that dollar was even like pushed on the downside right here. We got a double bottom around here, then a break around here, and after that we can see that the price is actually formed a double bottom around here, something like that, and trying to break on the upper side like that. So if the dollar remains strengthful, we might see a reaction like that on the upper side, but it greatly depends upon the situation, that how how the things are looking currently. We can see right here the USD JPY. Similarly, like USD was quite weak around these points, and we can see that the prices constantly went on the downside like that, reaching to this point. Then we started looking at the strength coming back into the US dollar, and prices came back around here. And at this point, we can see that the prices kind of like stopped. We saw a breakout that happened around here. Prices are currently bullish, because we can see that there are certainly breakouts that happened. This is the first breakout that happened. This is another breakout that happened. So although this was like a move on the downside, but it was recovered really quickly, and prices are pushing on the upper side like that. So much likelihood is that the, the prices can continue like that in the dollar. Similarly, if we see right here euro, and what euro is doing is currently prices like broke out of this zone around here, and after that prices started pushing on the upper side, formed a double top around here, and giving us a little bit of a reversal, just like DXY. That DXY is like doing like that, building the momentum around here. So similarly, euro is building the momentum up here, and what we expect I just can't say anything what we expect, but still, we our level at which we have placed around our alert is around this point. We expect the things to be, if there is a break that happened around here, so we might see prices coming around this FTR level right here. Euro GBP right here in front of you, and we can, as we have discussed, that euro is giving us momentum on the sideways, and being pushed on the downside, and we also discussed in the news that euro has been a little weaker pair than pound, so that's why we are looking at this kind of momentum on the downside. Although we did got a breakout from this point, and we can see right here that prices went up, came back down there, held around here, went up, pushed back, again tried to break on the upper side, failed, came back down there, constantly breaking down this zone, gave this type of momentum around here, but it all depends upon how the pound actually reacts around euro. So let's see how things run in here. Most likelihood is that if the prices kind of like move, break out of this range, we can expect a momentum in the euro back, but um, overall, if it gets weaker than the pound, we might see a clear move around this point, prices reaching around this neckline back again. Similarly, euro aussie right here, euro aussie is give us this strong move on the upper side, and then today the Australian dollar performed really good, and that's why we saw this type of like double top around here, and then prices are pushing on the downside. We can see that there might be a weakness coming around here, pushing the prices to these levels back down there. This is euro and ZD. We saw a good amount of weakness in euro right here, pushing the prices down. Prices held good around this point and went up, breakout from this point, came back down, and although I tried to take a position around here, and based on the structure, I got moved my stop loss, got got stopped out around this point, and right now the trade is still on that same point. So it sometimes happens like that. So the idea was to get long here, and I was planning to get long, and I was long. So this was a pullback that happened. Prices went up like that, broke out, but came back in again, retesting this level. So let's see like if we can actually like take the position again on the upper side like that. It has given us like a good indication around here, by the way. This is a good sign, but it all depends upon like how the euro performs in the London session against the Kiwis, and really a good pattern right here formation, that we can see that euro was quite strong against the Canadian dollar, went up there like that, then euro started getting weaker, and the weakness is continuously like pouring in. This was a structure right here. We can see a good breakout candle that is right here, and this candle is like a good breakout candle on the downside. Then again prices went into the range, and again prices tanked down right here, reaching to this order block. This is an order block right here. Let's see how things actually look like in there. So really a good setup in here, by the way. I would be noting it this way down because it seems quite valid. So when it comes to yens, we can see that yens has been pretty weak in front of euro, and euro was like taking the control. We see this type of momentum on the upper side. Prices made like this W pattern, pushed on the prices on the upper side. Again, a retracement happened. Price went up there. Again, a breakout on the upper side. After that, we can see that this uh, this resistance right here was broken. Again, price tried to push on the downside. Again, we see a pullback. Really a good setup in that sense if the prices can be pushed on the downside like that, but it all depends upon yen's weaknesses. And at 1 a.m. today on the Eastern Standard Time, we be having the CPI for the yens, so it would be really a masterpiece in that case. So it is again at this point there might be a push on the upper side, and then prices can start pushing on the downside if the CPI for the yens will be good. So it all is data driven. And then euro chf, we can see right here that euro gave this move on the upper side with the yens, and then prices pulled back a little bit, again retested this level, and taking the shorts out around this point. And after that prices came back down there, again went on the upper side, went retested this level, pushed on the downside, pushed on the downside, and right now it's in this range, might be like touching this level. That's why my alert is right here. So pound has been performing really good, and holding much better than euro right here. As we, if you can remember, euro was making like this type of weakness around here based on the dxy, but pound has been holding on the sideways level. We can see that it is still holding around this point, so much stronger. Not much of the volatility in pound, by the way. Pound aussies, similar structure around, holding on the upper side around this point. We can see that this is the three patterns that formed. Then the weakness came around, touched around this point, and then again prices started pushing on the upper side, and now again building this momentum, might continue on the upper side like that. Similarly in nzd, we can see that there's a break that happened around this point. Prices came back down there, retested this level, broke on the upper side, came back down. So of course, like we do have like a break of structure around this point, and again the prices are continuing on the upper side, can continue like that. GBP CAD right here, order block right here, prices has been like holding above that, and there's a breakout, pullback, continuation on the upper side, again came back down there, constantly pushing on the downside like that. But overall trend is bullish. And GBP JPY, so this is a measured move that actually happened around from this point to that point, a great move. And it's now it's time to remove this, and also remove this. We can actually see that prices on the yens quite being bullish, broke out on the upper side, again came back, formed the W structure around here, this neckline, retested, and pushed the prices on the upper side to this point. So what could be next? It all depends upon the CPI on the yens that could be coming out, and the weakness in the pounds, if there is any. And with CHF, we can see right here that the prices are still holding and pushing on the upper side like that. So it's kind of like this rally that is happening on the upper side, this bigger channel that is being developed. So much likelihood is that if we see it on the horizontal sideways, this is the range that has developed. Let's see how the pounds actually react, because there is not much volatility in here. If you can see that there was a break that happened again, the prices came back, retested this bottom around here, forming a triple bottom around here, and now prices are going sideways. Nothing much. And now we do have Australian dollar around here, so we can see that the Australian dollar performed good around here after this weakness in Australian dollar, went down, pushed back up, and then started making like a head and shoulder around here, pushed on the upper side, broke out, came back down, retested this level, came back down, and currently like holding this range position. And if we see AUD and ZD gave us a wonderful move, by the way. Although I kind of like missed this move, but it wasn't missed because I was looking at it, but not couldn't take the trade in there. So we can see that the liquidity grab that happened around this point was amazing. Price made like a W pattern around here, pulled back, pushed back, and continuing on the upper side. And now it's back to this current range around here. So if we see that this is the zone around here, so prices are reacting around this point. And in case if Australian dollar gets weakened, because we would be having the CPI for the Australian dollar at 7:30 tomorrow on the Eastern Standard Time, so we might see some kind of reaction around this point. And AUD CAD right here. So Australian dollar has like gaining us certainly a little bit of momentum around this move, although the trend is a bit ambiguous, a lot ambiguous, but we can actually like get a move in here. But the idea is that let's see how the things happen. If there is a pullback and a break around that point, so much wise action would be waiting for a break around this point. So if the prices breaks out of this pullback, forms a range around here, then we can actually expect a move on the upper side like that. And quite a solid structure in here. This is AUDJPY. Similar structure like others, we can see that this order block has been currently being reacted around here. This is the sideway move that happened. Price broke around here, pulled back, formed this peak formation low, and now prices is breaking out of this structure around here. AUDCHF, we can see that a little bit of momentum is built around here. And with New Zealand Kiwis, we can see that NZD was quite weak, but on the short time frame it is gaining a little bit of momentum. And secondly, this is the zone right here, the breakout that happened. Price pulled back, moved up, and can push on the downside like that. up till this point. NZD can beautiful structure right here, exactly on this order block right here. The Canadian dollars are like getting weaker in here because New Zealand Kiwis are taking a little bit of control back. NZDJPY right here. This was the trade that actually I tried yesterday. The idea was that the it was like full bearish momentum that was being built in there. Price went up, pulled back, retested this level, came back down again, tried to form like a double top around here at that moment, and then the price is pushed on the upper side like that based on the London session. So you can see that this move actually started happening, and it's a good indication that prices might like pull back a little bit and might continue like that. NZDCHF right here again, breakout again, prices are pulling back. Much likelihood is that prices can pull back down there, but it all depends upon the scenarios. CAD with the JPY, we can see that Canadian dollar gained a little bit of a strength around here. Let's see how the things would be reacting around after the CPI of yens. So this was a sideways move that happened, breakout, pulling back a little bit, might continue. So CAD JPY can give us a good momentum based on the breakout that has already happened. CAD Swiss, nothing much of that is happening. Although like Swiss is being a little bit on the sideways, and CHF JPY, we can see the reaction happening around here, around this order block. Failed to break high around here, and even like started creating a candle on the downside. Can give us a clear momentum move around here, and even continue further like that. So guys, this is it. We are currently looking a little bit of weakness in DXY right now, but overall, let's see how the activities happen on fundamentally, and then we can actually like capitalize on that. So anyway guys, you need to understand something really important, that as a trader we actually need to capitalize on the fundamentals. When if the fundamentals are right and aligning with the technicals, then we can actually grasp the proper trade. Otherwise we don't know what would be happening, because now as you can see right here, that if the DXY is forming a double bottom around here, so like it's not compulsory that it's gonna go on the upper side like that. The technical can give you the understanding, but you need to understand that the fundamentals are also supposed to align with the scenarios. Like if you take up any position around here, like this was the people with this breakout, many of the masses might have taken a move around here, so prices might even like pull back right now because there's not much activity around here, or might be even pulling back around there, and then like start continuing moving on the upper side. So it all depends, or there could be a scenario that anything can happen like that, the prices kind of like break down, coming back and forming this triple bottom around here. So it's like really unknown right now that how the things are looking, because if the prices are moving in this kind of trend and any sort of like pullback or situation just comes up, we can actually understand that the structure has been on the downtrend, but on the current scenarios, as we have like discussed that dollar is getting a little bit of a strength and optimism in there, so that's why we are looking at for the on the bullish side. So anyway guys, like if you do have any questions, do let me know, and if not, then I can go. So I think I should be leaving now, and I hope it makes sense whatever we've discussed. Take care guys.